speaker, Mr. Evan Loffman.
Good afternoon. Don't you think it's interesting that something that used to save our lives from predators many years ago is now the same thing that's detrimental to our health? That thing, of course, is stress. I first became interested in the topic of stress about 2 semesters ago in a biology class I took where we learned about stress and what it could do to the human body. And I found it very interesting that stress had such an influence on weight gain. So the survey I conducted about a week ago in this class showed that 90% of us are often overwhelmed with our work and school and families and other responsibilities we have. And that overwhelming feeling, that can lead to stress. And when people stress like that all the time, that can have an effect on your weight. So today, I'm going to talk about slow metabolism, emotional eating, and abdominal fat accumulation, which is fat in the stomach area, and their relation to stress. So first, I'll start by talking about slow metabolism. I've always heard that, or the first reason stress can cause weight gain is because it alters your metabolism, it slows it down. I often heard that inactivity or lack of exercise was the reason a person's metabolism could be slow. And while that's true, an article I read, Stress and Metabolism, says that stress by itself can slow your metabolism. So it's not just lack of exercise. And you might think, well, what does that have to do with gaining weight? Well, metabolism can be thought of like recycling. Recycling takes something that would be bad for the environment if left alone, like plastic bottles, and it turns it into something that could be useful, like more plastic bottles. It keeps it in use though, instead of just piling up. Well, the same way, metabolism, whenever you ingest fat, it breaks it down and it turns it into energy. But if stress is hindering your metabolism, it can be devastating. Because when metabolism isn't working right, the fat is just piling up on your body like trash in a New Jersey landfill. It's not good for you. And according to Dr. Michael Titelbaum, who wrote an article in Total Health magazine, when the fact that people are stressing all the time is bad, because when the stressors are going on, your body isn't metabolizing things. So whenever you're stressing, it doesn't have time to break down the fats, so the fats just pile up. So that's why slow metabolism can make you gain weight. So let's talk about another issue that coincides with this one. The second reason stress can cause weight gain is because it can lead to emotional eating. How many of you have heard of emotional eating? Everyone, okay, that's interesting. Well, it's basically what it sounds like, right? You eat because you're sad, you eat because you're stressed, you eat because you're happy, you eat because of your emotions. Well, the other day, a few weeks ago, I had a calculus test to study for, and I put it off last minute like I shouldn't have, but I did. And I'm sitting down trying to work problems, and I find myself going into the cabinet, grabbing brownies and cookies and chips. And at one point, I even went to Sonic and I got a cheeseburger and some chili cheese tots. I wasn't even hungry, but for some reason I was craving these things. But it turns out it's because I was stressed. Okay, sorry. According to Nutrition Magazine, there's studies that show that appetite, or stress, has a correlation with an appetite for sugary and fatty foods. Like this chocolate-covered donut, the guy's stressed out and he's eating one. And then this hamburger, like that, you actually crave bad food whenever you're stressed. That's crazy. So now you see how those two can work together to be bad for you. How else could this get worse, right? Well, the third reason stress can cause weight gain is because it actually causes fat to accumulate around your stomach. According to the Journal on the Biology of Stress, when stress hormones, they bind to fat cells, especially those around like your organs, and it causes other fat cells to store on top of them. So that's why people have the big belly. It's not just because of the fat on their skin, it's the fat around their organs. And that's not healthy at all. And Sir Michael Mormont, who is a professor at a medical college in London who studied stress for many years. He said the distribution of weight around the center, often called central obesity, is related to chronic stress. So in conclusion, you can see how these three things build upon each other to cause a person to gain weight. The fact that slow metabolism, emotional eating, and greater fat accumulation around the belly are all related to stress shows how big an influence stress has on a person's weight. And Dr. Carol Shibley, who is a professor at a university here in America, she studies stress, and she said, and I couldn't agree with this more, this is exactly how I feel about it. She said the most interesting thing she found about stress was that, she said this idea that stress could change the way you distribute fat on your body. She said, to me, this is a bizarre idea. Don't you think so? Thanks. Does anyone have any questions about this? Yes?
Okay. The first picture that you showed was an animal being chased.
Right.
Like,
Because
the animal is being stressed?
by the predator. Yes, that's stress. The fight or flight response is often talked about. Whenever a person is stressed, you either run from it. Originally, it was for predators, right? Like lions chasing that thing. They stress and they take off, or they fight back. But in that case, it ran.
Would you say the best diet is a stress-free diet?
Explain. What do you mean a stress-free diet?
If you can eliminate as much stress as possible, would you say that would be the best diet? On losing weight?
Well, yeah, being stress-free is good. I've learned from my research in this that if you actually sleep more, that can help burn fat. So fun fact. But eating better foods will help you. If you know you're stressed and you want to eat because you're like emotional eating, you know you're craving the fat food, it's best to recognize that and probably eat something healthy instead. So you can turn into that. Yes.
What would you say is your biggest craving when you're stressed?
I like brownies for some reason. You know cosmic brownies, like the Little Debbie's? I go get those a lot, and that's probably not really good. I try to avoid that now that I know. Anyone else have a question? Yes?
What got you interested in this topic?
I was in a pathophysiology class, which is talking about basically all the bad things that can happen to the human body. And we learned about stress, and I knew, stress could make you sick and everything. But then they started talking about stress has an influence on like the way you gain weight. And I thought that was interesting. And I watched other videos on stress, a documentary on National Geographic, and they talked about that some more. And I never knew that, stress could make you gain weight. Does anyone else have questions? No? Well, thank you for your time today. Hope you enjoyed my speech.